Hello and welcome to the third and final part of section 3.3 carbon compounds. Today we're going to end our 3.3 section by talking about something called proteins. Now proteins are chains of amino acid that are going to twist and fold into certain shapes, and those certain shapes are going to determine what that actual protein is going to do. There's many different types of proteins that perform different types of functions. And proteins have many different roles. They can be involved in the structure, the support, movement, communication, transportation, and the carrying out of chemical reactions. As humans, you can see we have different sources of proteins as well. Over here, you can see we have plant sources of protein. It can come from nuts, different types of beans, soy milk, stuff like peanut butter, certain seeds, oatmeal, beans and legumes. Okay, we also get protein from sources of meat or animal sources, milk, eggs, yogurt. You can see that we have fish, we have cottage cheese, which is still dairy, we have chicken, pork, beef. Okay, these are all different types of animal proteins. Now, proteins are a molecule that's made up of what we call amino acids. Okay, and amino acids are building blocks that link to form proteins. Each amino acid has what we call an amino group, okay, and a carboxyl group. Units of amino acids can form links that are called peptide bonds, and I'll show you this here in just a moment. The side group of the amino acid is what gives it its unique properties. Okay, and today there's 20 different amino acids that can be found in proteins. So just as a quick reference for you, you can see that we have some different amino acids here. Okay, and if you notice, they all kind of have the same basic shape, but there's going to be a different group. Okay, and if we look at something like glycine, which is right here, okay, glycine is going to have the letter code GLY, and it's going to contain the H2N group on it. To where if I come down and I look at something like lysine, let's say down here, okay, notice on my lysine group, okay, I'm going to have something like NH2, and it says it's LYS is the letter code. Cysteine is the same way. It's cis, CYS. And we can see that this portion of it is what is different. Okay, and again, these are like our 20 common amino acids here. And also, you do not have to write these down. I was just showing these to you just so you could kind of see what we had going on. For proteins, we have what we call levels of structure. So the amino acids are arranged in a very specific order, okay, and that's the protein's primary structure. Now, the interactions of various side groups that form coils and folds, these are what we call this protein's secondary structure. The overall shape of a single chain is the protein's tertiary structure, when tertiary would be like the third. And then the quaternary structure is the overall shape that results from combining the chains that form the actual proteins, or this would be like its fourth sublevel. Another term that you may hear when talking about proteins is called a nucleic acid. Now, nucleic acid is a long chain of nucleotide units, and a nucleotide is a molecule that's made up of 3 parts. Okay, it has a sugar, a base, and a phosphate group. Nucleotides, okay, are found in something that you guys have probably heard of, in deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. These are going to contain the sugar deoxyribose. Okay, and then we also have nucleotides of ribonucleic acid, or RNA. These also contain the sugar ribose. So when looking at DNA and RNA, you can see our nucleic acids. Okay, so this here is RNA, and notice the shape. Okay, DNA kind of has like the little ribbon structure, okay, which is like your phosphate backbone. And then you can see that we have these little amino acids that are attaching them. Now, hereditary information, okay, comes from DNA molecules because these act as instructions for the processes of an organism's life. Okay, DNA contains 2 strands of nucleotides that spiral around each other, and then the RNA also interacts with the DNA to help decode the information. So nucleic acids store and transmit the hereditary information, and it's this information then that will be passed down. We also have some single nucleotides that have other important roles. We have adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This is something you'll see quite a bit this year. This is a nucleotide that has 3 phosphate groups, and it supplies energy to the cell. Energy that's released in the reaction is going to break off the 3rd phosphate group because a triphosphate, okay, has 3 phosphate groups. So when one breaks off, then we have what we call a diphosphate, or an ADP. Other single nucleotides are going to transfer electrons or hydrogen atoms for other life processes. Again, we will talk about this stuff more in depth as the year goes on. So to kind of wrap up the whole section of 3.3, we talked about the fact that we have large complex biomolecules that are built from a few smaller, simpler repeating units. Okay, and these repeating units are arranged in very precise ways. Cells use carbs for sources of energy, structural materials, and cellular identification. The main functions of lipids include storing energy and controlling water movement. And we talked about how proteins are chains of amino acids that twist and fold into certain shapes, and those shapes are going to determine what the protein does. We also talked about how nucleic acids store and transmit hereditary information. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys when we get back to class. Thanks, and have a great day.